The rain hasn't stopped for a week. It washes the grime from the gutters, but it can't wash the stain from this city. They call it the City of Progress, a place for second chances. From where I'm sitting, though, all I see are last chances and dead ends. Name's Jack Corrigan. I'm a private investigator, a $5 word for a guy who gets paid to dig through other people's garbage. Usually, it's cheating husbands or insurance scams. Small-time trouble for small-time people. But then her case landed on my desk. A kid named Leo. Busted for a minor possession charge, no priors. The public defender told his mother to expect a year, maybe 2, with good behavior. The judge gave him 10. 10 years. In a private facility 3 states over. It didn't add up. The sentence was a sledgehammer for a thumbtack crime. In my line of work, you see the worst of people. Greed, hate. It's all part of the job. But this was different. It felt clean, efficient. This wasn't just a man getting put away. It was a man getting cashed in. And that single clean number, 10 years, was a thread I had to pull. I didn't know it then, but I was about to unravel a system that runs on turning human beings into profit, a machine that calls itself justice, but has the cold, dead heart of a corporation. The first rule of any investigation? Follow the money. In Leo's case, the money led to a couple of names, Core Civic and GEO Group. These weren't just prisons, they were businesses, publicly traded corporations, and business was booming. They call it the Prison Industrial Complex. It is a tidy name for the tangled web of politicians and private companies that get rich by putting people in cages. It's not just the companies running the prisons, it's the construction firms that build them, the food vendors, the phone companies charging families a fortune just to hear a loved one's voice. It's a whole ecosystem that feeds on captivity. I started digging into the judge who sentenced Leo. Sterling reputation. But his finances told another story. A series of well-timed investments in a fund with heavy ties to private prison stocks. It smelled like the Kids for Cash scandal up in Pennsylvania, where judges took kickbacks for sending kids to private juvie halls. This wasn't justice. It was a business transaction. The industry behind it is vast. With revenues in the billions, these corporations don't just build prisons, they buy influence. In 2024 alone, the 2 biggest private prison companies spent a combined total of over $3 million on federal lobbying. They push for policies that guarantee a steady flow of customers, mandatory minimums, 3 strikes laws, tougher immigration enforcement. Every long sentence, every new law, is another entry on their balance sheet. Every person like Leo is a product. His 10-year sentence wasn't a mistake, it was an investment. A guaranteed supply of product is only half the equation. You also need guaranteed demand. That's when I found the contracts. I got my hands on the state's agreement with the prison holding Leo. And buried in the legalese was a clause that made my blood run cold, an occupancy guarantee. The state had promised the corporation that this prison would stay at least 97% full. If the number of inmates dropped, the taxpayers had to pay for the empty beds anyway. It's a business model that gets penalized for a decrease in crime. It creates a sick incentive not to rehabilitate people, but to retain them. Think about that. The state has a financial stake in keeping its prisons full. This is why, during the big prison boom from 1990 to 2005, a new prison opened in America about every 10 days. It was driven more by profit than any real need for public safety. It's a system designed to feed itself. And it's not just state and federal lockups. As of this year, over 90% of all immigrant detainees are held in privately run facilities. In 2021, an executive order was signed to phase out the federal government's use of private prisons. It felt like a crack of light in a dark room. But that order was rescinded in January of 2025, and the business of incarceration was officially back on. The machine keeps running because it's designed to, it's built to grow, and its growth is measured in bodies. The numbers told a story of greed, but numbers don't have faces. They can't show you the families torn apart or the communities hollowed out. For that, you have to talk to the people the system chewed up and spit out. I met a woman whose son is serving life for a non-violent drug offense from 20 years ago. I met a man who can find a job because of a felony conviction from when he was 19. a ghost that follows him everywhere. Mass incarceration doesn't just cost the government over $182 billion a year by some counts. The real cost, when you factor in the devastation to families, swells into the hundreds of billions annually. Families with incarcerated loved ones spend a staggering $348 billion a year out of their own pockets and in lost income just to cope. And you can't talk about this system without talking about race. The gears of this machine are oiled with racial disparity. Black Americans are incarcerated at nearly 5 times the rate of white Americans. There's a statistic, a bit dated now, but it still haunts the streets, that 1 in 3 black boys born in the early 2000s could expect to go to prison in his lifetime. More recent data shows the risk has dropped, but it's still shockingly high, with 1 in 5 black men born in 2001 likely to be imprisoned at some point. This isn't an accident. It's the modern legacy of a system of control, just rebranded as criminal justice. Leo, the kid whose case started it all, wasn't just a random teenager. He was a statistic, another body to fill a bed and satisfy a contract. His community, already struggling, had lost another one of its own. This system doesn't just punish individuals, it destabilizes whole communities, creating a cycle of poverty and incarceration that's damn near impossible to break. My investigation led me to a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel. The name on the door was a corporate lobbying firm. The man I was there to see, we'll call him Mr. Thorne, was one of the architects of the state's prison contracts. He was smooth. Tailored suit, expensive watch, looked like a man who'd never gotten his hands dirty in his life. I laid out what I had. The kickbacks to the judge, the occupancy clauses, the lives ruined for a stock price. I expected him to deny it, maybe call security. He just smiled. "Detective," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you're seeing ghosts. You see a system of injustice. I see a solution. We provide jobs in rural areas that need them. We provide a service to the state, managing a population they can't handle. And we provide a stable, predictable return for our investors. It's a public-private partnership. A model of efficiency." "You're treating people like cattle," I told him. He shrugged without a flicker of remorse. "Someone has to. We live in a capitalist society. Everything has a value. We just found a way to monetize public safety. We didn't create the laws that put these people away, detective. We just built the most profitable system to house them. Don't blame the innkeeper for the guests." He was right about one thing. He wasn't the disease. He was a symptom. A symptom of a world that ES decided some people are disposable, that their lives are worth more as a line item on a budget than as a member of a family or a community. This story, Leo's story, Thorne's story, this whole rotten system, it isn't just my story. It's America's. It's written in our laws, built into our economy, and hidden in plain sight. The first step to dismantling a machine is to understand how it works. If what you've heard makes you angry, share this. The more people who see the truth, the harder it is for the machine to keep running in the dark. Let's talk about it in the comments. I got Leo's case in front of a federal prosecutor. With the financial trail I'd uncovered, the judge was forced into retirement. Leo's sentence was reduced. He'll be home in a year. It feels like a victory, but it's a small one. A single drop of rain in a hurricane. Because the system is still there. The prisons are still full. The corporations are still cashing their checks. I exposed one corrupt judge, but the laws that let this industry thrive are still on the books. The profit motive is still woven into the fabric of American justice. The rain has finally stopped. The city is quiet. But it's a heavy quiet. The kind that comes after a storm, when all you can see is the wreckage left behind. I solved my case. But the bigger case, the one against a system that puts a price tag on human beings, that one is far from closed. And it leaves you with one question, a question that should keep us all up at night. In a country that trades freedom for profit, who is truly free?